By chance, do you have a this thing वो जो कान में लगाते हैं ना headphone?
I don't have it.
Okay.
I can ask someone.
Okay. Somehow I don't know. I mean, I'm not hearing them. ये तो मैंने कर लिया कंप्यूटर ऑडियो से है. यहाँ पे तो है पूरा है.
But the voice is not coming.
हाँ
Can't hear anything, right?
हाँ, that's the question.
I welcome everyone and we'll be starting in 5 minutes.
Good morning, Anup sir. Anup sir, good morning.
Yeah,
Can you
good
hear
morning.
me? Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Sir, we will start within 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
नमस्कार सर.
A very good morning to everyone present here. Our today's speaker is Professor Dr. Anup Kumar Mukhopadhyay. He is professor in Department of Physics, Sharda University, UP, India. Prior to taking up this responsibility on 8th of December 2018, he retired as chief scientist and head of the Advanced Mechanical and Materials Characterization Division of CSIR, Central Glass and Ceramic Research Institute, Kolkata in July 2018. He did his postdoctoral works at the University of Sydney in Australia and Fortungstatum Jülich in Germany. He was also a visiting scientist and adjunct professor at the University of New South Wales, Australia, University of Technology of Sydney, Australia, Leuven University in Belgium, and University of Saarbrücken and Saarland in Germany. He has more than 185 publications in SCI journals, about 165 national international conference publications, about 60 invited talks, about 20 keynote addresses, and about 15 plenary talks to his credit. He has guided 10 PhD students and 3 postdoctoral students. Today, the title of his talk is How to Write a Project Proposal for Obtaining Successful Sponsorship, Prospects, and Challenges. Now, I will request Sir to start the session.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible. Let me share my screen.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, you are audible.
Is the screen visible to all of you?
Right now, it's not visible, sir.
Can you see it now?
No, sir.
But I just shared my desktop. Okay, let me try once more.
Yes, sir. It's showing your browser, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
now computer laptop window is showing.
can you see it now?
Yes, sir. It is
Okay.
showing, but not in the presentation mode.
Oh, but I've opened the
Please.
presentation.
Yeah, it's showing, sir. Please use Control F5, I think. Slideshow presentation. Yeah, sir. Please click it. Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's fine, sir.
Okay, great. So very good afternoon to all the participants. My special thanks to Professor Anup Sharma, VC UEM Jaipur, and the organizing committee of ATTSRWP 2022. And also a very warm welcome from the Department of Physics, Sharda School of Basic Sciences and Research, Sharda University, Gautam Buddha Nagar, Greater Noida, Uttar Pradesh, India, where I'm now working as a senior professor in physics. The topic today that we're going to discuss is how to write a project proposal for obtaining successful sponsorships, prospects and challenges. We'll try to introduce what's it all about, then the objective, and then we'll like to discuss like what are the issues, what is the relation between research and researcher, why sponsors are required, project proposal, how to write a project proposal, many examples and case studies. We'll spend a lot of time there, and then prospects and challenges, and what are the challenges before we can summarize. So this cat there is actually our mind, and it is trying to understand what's going to happen in the next few minutes or about an hour or hour and a half. So that basically describes my journey through research career. So I will not spend a lot of time on that, excepting that it has been a very interesting journey, and my credentials are in the respective websites, so anyone could check that. And it has been a very interesting journey, and I'm still a learner, I believe, and it gives me a scope to interact with the students, and that's the greatest advantage of being a teacher. So basically, if we go to the Oxford Concise Dictionary, they say that research is the systematic investigation into and study of materials, sources, etc., in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. And there is another definition that an endeavor to discover new or collate old facts, etc., by the scientific study of a subject or by a course of critical investigation. However, I have a slightly different view. We'll come to that. So, who are the researchers? So, obviously, those who does research. Then the question comes, what is research then? And the next question that comes is, for what research is needed? Do we really need to do it? What if we do not do research at all? Okay. So, what we do if we do not do research? So, basically, as you can see that this is PSLV C-37. And 2017, ISRO created a world record by launching 104 satellites into orbit in a single mission. So that's a huge achievement. Okay, and the Antariksh, the commercial vehicle of ISRO, which is the Indian Space Research Organization, their revenue now is 20 billion, and they are targeting projected revenue of 40 billion. So 100% growth by the next 5 years or so. So that's a big challenge, and to do that, you need to do research. So there are three things there. One is the insufficient knowledge push, which the sponsor do not have, so he needs it. And of course, how does the sponsor select the research program? Market demand pool is there and technology push is there. So this triangle is very much needed to be understood to be able to be successful in getting a research project proposal sanctioned. So research is a must for our country, and there are many very credible events. I have taken only ISRO, but there are many others. As we will go through, we will see that indigenous research and development for any country and globally is very important to go ahead for the betterment of mankind and society. Okay, so research is a must for our country, and today, because of the societal needs, we need to have research that give me technology to develop a product, and to do that, we must have research, philosophy, and methodology so intertwined that we can get what we need today. Now, what is the purpose or philosophy of research? So basically, there is no right or wrong philosophy, but a well or good case for the one we prefer, but needs to be based on facts and on our own understanding of alternatives. Primarily, what is important that we should not think that whatever we are thinking is correct. An understanding of alternative philosophy is needed, will surely make us much better researcher. A hard, vital truth to expect opposition of views. So we need to respect the opposition of views and to be able to win over by facts and logic, not by emotion. Okay. So simply saying, I can say that my own view of philosophy will be P for practice or practical, H for holistic, I for innovative, L for logical, O for opposite views are important, S is soundness of logic, O is objectivism, P is prepared to face the unexpected, H is hatched in reality, conceived reality, Y yield only to scientific reasoning. So that's how I conceive the philosophy of research. And there are, two ways. One is the inductive logic. So where we begin at A, as you can see, we begin at A, and where observation or descriptions proceed to B, which is analysis, and then arrive at C, which is conclusion. And deductive is we begin at C, so we have a hypothesis, then proceed to gathering data to test the hypothesis, which is B, and then we test it against the data. So these inductive and deductive are the two ways we can conceive of logic. And so that's the pictorial description. Either we can go to theory to hypothesis to observation to confirmation, or observation to pattern to hypothesis, and then theorize that. And there are two different schools. One believes in the phenomenological paradigm, the other believes in the other thing. And basically, we can respect both of them, or we can see like whichever one fits our own prospect and challenges. Now, for me, what does research mean? It could be radical or new, examination of facts from myths or notions, systematic investigation, energetic, passionate, and exhaustive, argumentative, inquisitive, and questioning. R is for results and reproducibility. C is for characteristics and characterization. H is holistic, honest, and human. Very important to be human. Today, that's the most demanding aspect because we need to do research for society. Now, when you call new or radical or imagination, there is a very good example. This is actually the pencil drawing in the diary of Leonardo da Vinci, who is famous for Mona Lisa. And he says that once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been and there you will always long to return. And basically, this is actually today's helicopter. See the similarity. Now, creativity has many faces and facets. Imagination is very important. And coming to research project, what is a research project? In order to research, it could be socially relevant, scientifically relevant, economically, socio-scientifically, or socio-economically relevant problem. But it's open-ended. Is there something close-ended? Yes. That is my research project. Close-ended, time-bound. Therefore, we propose a goal or a list of goals, which are my deliverables, and it is to be achieved on completion of the project. So there is a time frame, and as per defined timeline. So time is bound there. The project requires sponsorship. We may be totally successful in a project. We may be partially successful, and we may be totally unsuccessful. And it doesn't matter if we are unsuccessful, we still gain the knowledge that this part is not to be traded by another person. Okay. So our efforts and methodology matters the most. Efforts and honesty and methodology will lead us the way there. Okay. Now, basically, project for me is purposeful or planned, research as per plan, objective oriented and exhaustive. J is justified and judicious. E is evaluable. Somebody else should be independently able to evaluate it. Experiment based and evolving. Critical, and it should have connectivity. And total, technically solid and tactically correct. So that is what a project stands for me. And if we come to this methodology part, so M must be meaningful, E should be exercisable or experimentally possible, doable. T is tactically sound, H is harmoniously tuned with hypothesis. O is observational, D is deductive. The other O is operationally optimizable, A is logically sound. The other O is optimization of available resources. G is global validity, Y is yes or no or conclusive. So that's how I look at it. So I took a hard call in my journey. Why my interest grew in physics of deformation, fracture, and failure of materials, especially for brittle solids like glass and ceramics, which is today's material, tomorrow's material, and future's material, and also length scale, loading rate, and strain rate. And this is applicable for all materials, metals, polymers, biomaterials, composites, ceramics, glass, functionally graded materials, so on and so forth. So that's my thesis. And the first person in India to develop the high temperature testing facility of monoxide ceramics, which are very important for defense. It was a project sponsored by the defense. I'm not going to the details of the results, but the concluding line is that we can and we can do, and we can also make publications as good as international quality. And as we look into the today's scenario, there is no boundary between physics, chemistry, or biosciences and computational simulations or mathematical simulations. Today we are looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning, and one particular example of extreme and extraordinary engineering is human heart. So therefore, you can see that all boundaries are vanishing, and we need to have a broader perspective and prospect in terms of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research. And basically, the science and the matter are amalgamated in material science, and pictorially I have shown how the material science can lead to materials engineering, and therefore tuning the materials microstructure by bioinformatics, by molecular simulation, molecular dynamics. We can design the material, then we can start to understand its science, and then we can apply it to in terms of development of a device or a building or a product. That's materials engineering. And there could be many aspects of it, like these hip joints, as you can see here. These are multiple materials. This is a metal, this is a polymer, and there will be a ceramic coating on this femoral head. And this is actual human bone, as you can see. This is a stain that goes in human heart during heart failure. And this is a ceramic material, which is a armor material after bullet. And as you can see, when you make a composite, the hole due to the bullet becomes smaller. And this is a screw that goes in endodontics when we have our some screw going and fixing up our jaw defect and things like that. So for useful functional, structural, biomedical applications, the research today has to be multidimensional. Okay. So when you do something like that, a person of my age, I'm 65 now, or going to 65. So I have naturally worked on a lot of materials and on a lot of domains. And but how could I do that unless I have support, right? So when I talk of deformation of physics and fracture, you can always say why at all. So basically, if I have a pencil, it breaks, I can sharpen it. But in life, if I have a situation like the Titanic, I do not have a second chance. So therefore, deformation and fracture of materials is important. And in life, there are always possibilities of fracture, be it a bone fracture, be it a material fracture, or the fracture of a windshield. And the problem is that when it is a large scale, you can use conventional techniques, but when it goes down, you have to use a nanoscale technique. Okay, like macroscale techniques are okay, and also you can understand every domain, like from kilometer to nanometer range, the mechanics is changing. As a physicist, we look into these mechanics and we try to understand, because the length scale of a given physical quantity or process of phenomena and the probe length scale by which we try to measure it must be compatible to understand and correlate with each other. And we are getting actually a totality of effect, but which starts at the nanoscale. So just as a typical example, as you can see, this is a fracture in a glass which happens in a very small scale, and ultimately it causes the material to get separated. So therefore, it's very important that we understand nanoscale deformation and fracture. And why contact is important, because contact issues are our everyday life. And a few days back, we were very much scared of this, like life of Pi was scared by the tiger. SARS-CoV-2 was threatening life in India and in the globe, in fact, but life must go on. So we must not be afraid of contact, but we have to be careful so that we do not have induced deformation and fracture. The important things important in fracture, of course, the curvature of contact in terms of dynamics of materials and statics of materials. Also, the scale of contact is very important if you can understand, and the strain rate or the rate of contact. We would be very happy to be here, but we'll be very unhappy to be here. But all this can happen, like in a bullet impact, or when we hit an accident or a car impact, and therefore all of these can impart a significant effect on compact physics and the mechanics of it. So therefore, all these matter, and this is independent of material. Everywhere, metal, ceramics, polymers, composites, ceramic matrix composites, metal matrix composites, polymer matrix composites, fiber infused polymers or carbon fiber infused polymers, hybrid composites, multi-layer composites. In all these cases, static contact, dynamic contact, and all these can happen. So we try to simulate that by different kind of indentation, micro indentation, nano indentation, and macro indentation. And we use that as a feedback for processing optimization so that we can get a better material. That's the whole idea. I will not go through the details because this is mostly on the project writing. So I'll skip this, but only telling you that this is a technique which can give you properties in the depth direction, the position direction, and also in the multi-phase material in different sizes. This has been my major area of work since the last few years. Now, quite obvious that deformation and fracture has caused interest in greatest of the minds like Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci, Newton, and of late, Professor Hartz, Brian Lawn, and A.J. Evans. I got the fortune to work with them as mentors, and my own professors, Professor Mike Swine, and Professor Steinrich in Germany. I've learned a lot from them, and all my work are now authored books and publications. Skip that. So research is what we do when you have a question or a scientific social problem. As I told you, it's open-ended. And when you go to close-ended thing, I'll repeat just. Now the question is how to achieve sponsorship. Okay. Now the question can be, of course, why do we at all need sponsorship? Okay. Our priority is to formulate the question That is of importance to the sponsor. This is where I'm coming into the field now. So who are the sponsors? It could be government agency or private agency, state government or central government agency, State Council of Science and Technology, for example, UP Council of Science and Technology got a very recently a project from that. Department of Science and Technology, Rajasthan, Department of Science and Technology, Himachal Pradesh, so on and so forth. We also have these major central government agencies who give you a lot of funding. DSIR, which is the Department of Science and Scientific and Industrial Research, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology Structural Engineering Research Board, Department of Biotechnology, University Grants Commission, CSR, DRDO, ISRO, BRNS, various central ministries like the Environment Ministry, the Jal Shakti Mission, and many more, and also international R&D agencies, Indo-Japan, Indo-German. I myself have worked a lot in Indo-German projects and collaborative research programs. Okay. There are also private agencies like TCS, Tata Steels, Jindal Steel, SAIL, Indian Oil Corporation, Shell, Intel, IBM, Microsoft, Shell. Many startups are also offering for project sponsorship, biotechnology companies particularly, and there are many more. So the scopes are endless, provided we are smart and we can tune our problem or pose our problem to be of interest to them. So basically what we need to have is my research focus and the sponsor's research focus. This is the sponsor's research focus. This is my research focus. These has to be aligned. So I have to prune down or tune down my own research focus to the specific need of the sponsor. I may be knowing a lot of things or maybe liking to do a lot of research on a lot of things. However, the sponsor would not be interested in that. So I have to prune down and focus basically to the research that the sponsor needs me to do. Why sponsors are needed to do research? That's a good question. We require money for instrument, manpower, consumables, travel, and contingency. And sponsors, on the other hand, will need research to be performed to attain a specific goal or a set of goals. So therefore, this is a mutual beneficial scenario. So we need to do research on both the aspects. So we need to do research as our own career path, and we also need to critically look at the kind of calls one after another the particular department like biotechnology or the ACRV they are giving. So we need to do a research on the sponsors program and sponsors mindset, that what are their trust areas, what are their important areas, and how I can draw a bridge between my own intentions and the sponsor's expectations. So that is the main challenge. And basically, how will we define the research problem? Okay, it may be very good and unique, but the big question is it aligned with national trust area or international trust area? Let me give you an example. Today, what are the trust areas? One is, of course, Sustainable Development Goals, the 16 SDGs, which is given by the United States and the United Nations. Energy crisis, food crisis, crisis of literacy, education for all, the major crisis of biotechnology and medical infrastructure that the total world face. So these are, and of course, water remediation and pollution control. So these are major challenge for any country and of course for the international agencies. Therefore, we must be able to look into these areas, or even if we are not working exactly in these areas, we should either be trying to develop materials which could be useful for these areas. So we need to make sure also, is it unique and scientifically important? Can it answer today's challenges? Can it lead to a laboratory scale process? And if this is laboratory scale process, can the process be upgradable to a pilot scale within a 2 to 3 years time period? And if it is possible, then can the pilot scale process be upgraded to a product development by an industry over a time frame of 3 to 5 years? Can it put forward more questions than answers for tomorrow's researchers? That's very important. So we are not saying that we are not going to touch upon at all the fundamental understanding aspect. We are only saying that along with the fundamental aspect, we need to have a closed loop at the product development aspect. And Can it answer any or some of the important socio-technological problems or a fundamental scientific problem? There is nothing wrong with even addressing a fundamental scientific problem. So, but whatever we do, it must be impactful. It should not be like, additional +1. It should be impactful. And it is not only that we feel it about to be impactful, the sponsor must feel that yes, it's going to be an impactful research and we should be supporting it. So that mindset we need to generate. Okay. When we saw product development, or when we say in the academia that product development, you must be kidding. But it's not really so. Let me give you an example. I'll give you quite a couple of examples. What you are seeing is INS Vikrant, which is the pride of the nation today. And a few days back, DRDO or the government of India, through our beloved Prime Minister, Sir Narendra Modi ji, he has dedicated it to the service of nation. What is the interesting science here, the technology here? It's totally indigenously developed, and the steel needed for this particular vessel was developed by Dr. K. Muralidharan, who was the director of CSIR-CGCRI. When I was a staff member at CSIR-CGCRI, he was my director, and he developed it when he was a staff scientist at Defense Metallurgical Research Laboratory at Hyderabad. And it took large number of years to fine-tune it, develop it. Then, making the steel is one thing, and making a vessel, and that too helicopter and missile carrying vessel like INS Vikrant. So from the basic research level, from which he could publish papers in Nature, and then going to the application, technology and product development, it's a complete journey. And really, it is not impossible. All our national agencies like the DRDO, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, for which I worked from 1982 to 2018, in a space research organization, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Board for Research in Nuclear Sciences and Department of Atomic Energy, all of them do this. So this is nothing wrong, nothing impossible. And the person who is involved in product development, I can give you a few examples of very different materials. This is a geopolymer brick which we produce, and as you can see, the price is much less than the market price, and its properties are much better than the properties of the conventional brick. And we give it to the project management division. It's at CSIR-CGCRI in 2017. Okay. So also publications came out, but the major thing is the product development. Similarly, we also developed a product which is basically a thin film of barium oxide-based materials for passive solar thermoconductor application in spacecraft. And I'm not going to go to the technical details, except that this has been in advanced stage of space qualification at the moment, and this was sponsored by ISRO Response program. I'll come to that in details later on. So as you can see, product development is possible even when doing basic academic research. Similarly, this is the endodontic sealer. This is not produced in India, and one microgram cost about 11,000 rupees, and the current Indian population size is about 1.4 billion. So the cost will be tremendous. So about more than 9,400 billion Indian rupees could be saved, and this is in advanced stage of patenting. I developed it with my students at CSIR-CGCRI. Similarly, the advanced biomedical implants, the problem is when you put something like a metal in the human body, it can get corroded. So to stop that corrosion and this implant failure, we have developed a technology with along with the Institute of Plasma Research in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. And we can see that the material that we have developed has a much higher cyclic fatigue resistance. That means it's a much better material. So this was sponsored again by DSTCI. The point is, and as you can see, these are the products that we developed and we have supplied to. This is the head part that we have developed, and this goes there. And this is the metallic ball that sits there. This is that one. So therefore, as you can see, we can do basic research and product development. So we can be both in science and technology, and that can be supported by sponsors. Okay. And as of today, the market size is about 10 billion, but it's going to increase. Now, successful research project application. So that is something, you see, there are many, many words there: successful, then research, then project, then applications. Okay. Let me give you a few examples. Again, from my own work, the first one is development of laminated ceramic composites for structural applications. The amount is not very large, as you can see. Then joining of glass pieces by a novel fusion technique. Then I went on to Germany, working on thermal barrier coating. Then nanostructured multilayer composite, and this was the Indo-German project, as you can see. I'm skipping the details. Then near net shape manufacturing. What is important today, particularly for ceramic materials, because they are hard and brittle. If you can manufacture them in near net shape, that's a very good advantage. So slowly we went on to higher funding, and this is a network project, and which you could grab on. Similarly, we worked on the hydroxyapatite coating for metallic implants, and this was sponsored by DST. Then it was called in 2006, way back, Structural Engineering Council, which is the board now. And then we also did work on shock physics, which was supported by BRNS. It's important for atomic energy research. Then we also developed some armor materials for non-oxide ceramic-based materials as a CSI network project. And you can see that these are high-value projects. Similarly, we did work for, it is always good to see if we can refurbish the materials rather than throwing them away, because that is also a pollution. So we tried that workout technology for assistant and refurbishment of engineering materials and components. And there also we got a good funding. Then some internal fundings were there. We also did some work for Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. And of course, this funding is not large, but that was a good beginning, I would say. And similarly, we developed something for DRDO, which is a Indian tin oxide foam for stealth application. And it has a value of 20 lakhs. And starting from there, we went on to these geopolymers, which is again a high value. And then ceramic materials for structural armors, which is a very high value project. We also worked by a private industry, supported by a private industry, on a human hair problem. So you can see, like, there are various aspects. You bring physics into it because everything has a physics, and chemistry and material science. And these two, of course, are the last project that we did. And money-wise, of course, this was supported by the STACRP, and this is by the ISRO Respond program. Why I am showing this, not to boost up my own ability, but to impress upon you that it is possible by any person. And it can be a varied range over which you may be needed to work, because if we need money to do work, therefore we need to align our problems and our expertise as per in different domains, as per the need of the different sponsoring agencies. So total plus the 90 crores plus amount of INR to be generated. Now, as you can see, we have a research project and then application, then the sponsor, then somewhere on the top I have written successful. So if I am getting granted, that is successful, and if I am not, then it's unsuccessful. Okay, and when we get unsuccessful, we become very angry, quite reasonably so, because we have to put a large amount of effort in framing a research project. Okay, so as you can see here, again I apply, and 3 times I apply, 3 times I get unsuccessful. So that's very boring and frustrating. Okay, now let me start thinking what can be done. Maybe I have done something. So I have a successful one and 2 unsuccessful. Okay, then I start even more thinking and even more coordinating, collaborating, and connecting. So I have 2 successful projects, and finally I have 3 successful projects. So basically, there are something that needs to be done so that you get the attention of the sponsors. What is that something? How do I write? That's very important. Okay. What is the catch line? What are the changes? First point is the confidence to embrace failure. So once I have submitted a project, it got rejected very politely that due to large number of applications, your application could not be considered. It will come 10 times, but one time you will get that your application is being considered, has been reviewed. You are being asked to defend it. Now, where most of the times we fail, there are few areas. First is the critical thinking skill. What is the critical thinking skill? Whenever something comes in our mind, or whenever we see a good paper, we think that we can write a project on that. But there are a few aspects that we need to look into. I'll come into the details. So critical thinking means we must question ourselves that is it necessarily so good that the sponsor will sponsor it? What are the alternatives? What, from the sponsor's point of view, what are the negative comments that I may face? And how do I overcome in the project design? And therefore, the self-critical assessment and group critical assessment, and going to a larger scale like the division critical assessment is very important. In a department like your maths department, it will be person, then a core group, then the entire department, they will have to look into the critical assessment. Okay. And there is another need to well define the uniqueness is extremely important, because so many applications come to agency, and I myself have been a part of many project evaluation agencies. I can tell you that the good definition of a uniqueness with respect to what others are doing and establishing that is a very challenging task. In all project formats, you will see there are few things. One is the abstract. A good project will have a very small abstract, although conveying all the major points. Most of the times, this is where a failure is. The very important is how do I establish my knowledge in the field, in the national scenario and in the international scenario, what is being done and what is not being done. That is well defining the scope of the work. Most of the times in both papers and projects we fail because we do not take into consideration that if I develop well the scope, then narrowing that down, I can well define much more than others the objective and the need for the project. This is where we fail in most of the times. Also, when we choose a project problem, it should be either a local or a national or global or all of them. So we need to establish the relevance of the work, that this is extremely important for the sponsor to consider, and not considering that will give him a loss, not in terms of knowledge base, also in terms of application prospect. So this must be embedded in the project structure. We need to understand that very clearly and categorically, that these are the aspects that primarily we need to take care of. So literature survey, definition of the objective, abstract, and then uniqueness definition and relevance definition. And every point, not only from the abstract, every point we must have a self-critical assessment, then group critical assessment, then department or division critical assessment, where we should be telling frankly our colleagues or ourselves that these are good about the project and these are bad about the project. This is called a honest feedback system. Unless we can establish that, it will be very difficult for us to get progress. So that is something very, very, very important for us to understand, that how we can openly, not rudely, honestly, with sympathy, tell somebody that these aspects of the project appears to be good, but these are the aspects where you need to work. So this is something which we need to very critically look into. One of the other aspects, if you are doing something of a material, will it give me a cost reduction? And if it gives me a cost reduction, will it be an energy intensive process or an energy benign process? Will the industry be interested in this? Will it give me a new knowledge? Will it give me a new process? And we, among the group, among the peer group, we must argue in a sensible manner, okay, and come out with a plausible solution that yes, these are the aspects that can go into the project. The next point that comes very important today for all the sponsoring agencies, they are mainly interested in product development. So where does the product go? It goes to the market. But one day the product will not come. It may take years. Therefore, the process upscalability becomes a very important aspect. Whatever we do, even if we are doing mathematical modeling, we need to see that to what large scale sample size we can work out our modeling and how much we can see that it is critically correct. Similarly, another important aspect is when I'm marketing something today, alignment with SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. It's extremely important. So whatever process I'm developing, to market that, I have to face these kind of challenges which my project will need to answer. Then is there the new technology. Now, new technologies, most of the cases, people are today talking of green technology. Not all of them will be green maybe, but as much as possible, we should be trying to have green technology in the sense that they will be energy benign. And whatever we do, if we can have an impact of reduction in pollution, it could be air pollution, it could be water pollution, it could be soil pollution, it could be wetland pollution, forest pollution. All of these are very, very important when conceiving a project proposal. And of course, if we can develop new materials which can help me, like nanoceramic hydroxides, and there are so many other materials. Nanoceramic hydroxides I told because I work on that area. There are many other materials which can help me in scavenging out the pollutants from at least water and soil. This is the area that in which I am working, particularly toxic heavy metal ion scavenging. So therefore, new material development is also important. So lab scale processes must go on, and new challenges must be started from there, and then we mature that up in terms of a project proposal. As I told, like alignment with sponsors vision and mission, when I'm writing a particular sponsors, depending on a particular sponsor's call, then alignment with sponsors trust area, alignment with industry needs, and technology readiness level. There are 9 TRL levels. At least a TRL level 3 product should go with our project. That I have a TRL level 3 project or material or a device which I want to upscale through this project here. So that is the expectation from most of the sponsors. Okay. Now, as you can see, original scientific thinking, that's very, very, very important. And therefore, we cannot afford to have copy and paste. We must have solid scientific reasoning and uniqueness and relevance in national and global scenario. Whatever problem I want to focus on. Okay. Now, obviously, there will be a question, why will I be recognized as a person applying for a project? So I have to be a budding leader. Therefore, establishing credibility in the field is important. How do you do that? By publication, by doing patents, by giving talks, by being known to the community. So, and both to the national and international community, being in the editorial board of journals. There are many means by which you can establish yourself as an expert and your credibility in the field. So to be able to read the reviewer's mind, that's very important. So when you write a project proposal, after you have finished, you sit apart and look like, if I am the reviewer, what are the questions that I'm going to put? And then what will be my answers? To remain flexible to accept criticism. Sometimes what happens, even in the open meeting or in the review form, there are many odd comments. Okay, or somebody is saying that your project is, you are asking for 50 lakhs, not even worth of 20 lakhs, so keep your budget to less than 20 lakhs. Or you are saying of this flexible device, but it is not going to work out, you need to have such kind of a substrate, whatever. We need to remain flexible enough to accept criticism. Maybe he's trying actually to help me. So we should not think that somebody who criticizes is an enemy. We should think that he's actually a well-wisher, he's actually a helper. Okay. Very important is to remain connected to the national community, at least, if not the international community, so that people know that you are working in this field since long and you are a credible person, and you try to improve continuously perception about yourself as a scientific researcher, and also perception about your institute, your department, and your area of research. It is very important, because when somebody sees your work as a project proposal, this will click in his mind. Okay, I've seen this guy giving an invited talk there, giving a plenary talk there. Probably I've seen his name in the editorial board of that journal. So this kind of perception also plays a role in reviewer's mind when he goes through your proposal. So that's very important to critically assess that. Next comes is budgeting and justifications. For what? For manpower, consumables, travel, and contingency. It's extremely important that you do not be superfluous and you should not be superfluous as well. So you should be just balanced, okay? And try to also understand, like, if you're asking for 40 lakhs and you're given, say, 23 lakhs, can you manage the project by that amount? So your planning part is extremely important. 80% planning of a research project that actually does the rest 20% in advance. So planning to translate the research from laboratory to market. Most of the times in DST project proposals, you will see that how are you going to take the outcomes out of this project. So there is the key that you need to speak out how you are going to translate the research from the particular project supported by the sponsor to the higher level. And you also need to see the bigger picture and convince others to believe it. What is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that development of a lab scale product could one day be a market product or marketable product. So you should be oriented in that way that you could make them believe that, or your small modeling project could lead to a bigger outcome in terms of pandemic research. So therefore, you need to see yourself first, the bigger picture, not in a dreamy fashion, but in a hardcore reality fashion, and then convince others to believe it. You should have that kind of a guts in you, so that you can make other people's and resources, knowledge, power, everything. So people could believe you. Now, when you talk of classical scientific method, so it starts from either systematic, occasional, or accidental observation. You have a hypothesis, which is some idea of an explanation. So we do induction or a conjecture, then intuition or guesswork, and usually they are informed by related work. Then testing of the hypothesis, we do experimentation, theoretical validation, simulation, everything, right? So that's the classical scientific method that we need to follow. So statement of the problem, literature review. This is very, very, very critical, my friends. Let me tell you that you can ask me questions anytime and stop me if you are bored, but it's very, very important. And choice of the research method, extraordinarily important. How I'm going to do my research. So therefore, it brings me to the design of study, data collection, analysis of data, because that is where the truth lies. The analysis gives me the fact. Okay, so interpretation of result, validation and local testing as well as acceptance. Acceptance means its publication by the gentry, by the academia. Internal reports, so that you have a document in the backup, and patents apart from publications. So these are certain things very, very important when you are planning, because it is also needed to in your timeline of the project proposal. When you show it to the sponsor, you have to show that you have thought about this. So what is the hypothesis? It makes prediction of the most probable or expected outcome in a given situation for a given set of variables. What we try to understand, basically we try to understand how the manipulation of the independent variable in terms of the mathematical jargons will influence the behavior of a dependent variable. That's exactly how physicists and mathematicians and also chemists and biologists do the same. So how to test the hypothesis? Obviously, it is tested in an experiment. So experimental design, as you can see, it's very important. What it ensures? It ensures what we are doing is genuinely and solely responsible for the results. And the most important need, therefore, is to be able to control the extraneous variables, so that what I'm looking at is a genuine effect. It's not a extraneous effect. So from where does the hypothesis come? Not usually out of thin air. Most of the cases from within a framework. Some phenomena is not well explained by current thinking. So new hypothesis is often just an adaptation of an existing hypothesis, but new interpretation. Okay. So the thesis will have an antithesis followed by the confluence of these two into a synthesis. Okay. So what is meant by thesis? It's the original statement of an idea. What is antithesis? An argument to challenge a previous thesis, often draws on new data. What is synthesis? A new argument from existing sources, it typically resolves the apparent contradiction between a thesis and an antithesis. This research philosophy is applicable in general to all research proposals. Therefore, you must keep it in mind when you are developing a research proposal. So what is a good, what is testability? A good hypothesis is testable. Refutation of a thesis by proving that it is false is a cornerstone of modern science. And there are many examples, starting from Newtonian mechanics, going to quantum mechanics, and there are many, many examples. Okay. How the progress happens? We can refute a hypothesis, but better science is that we'll need to explain why a given hypothesis is wrong. It will be even better science if the researchers offer an alternative hypothesis. That means that there is a new way of thinking. Okay. So what does if the experiment works, what does it prove? What we infer is that the hypothesis is most probably correct. If it fails, it could be because either the hypothesis is wrong or the experimental design is faulty. Okay. The experiment measures what? It measures the behavior of the DB, that is the dependent variable. So DB must be measurable. So questions comes what to measure and how to measure. And we need to ascertain the authenticity or the reproducibility or the resolvability of the experiment itself. Very important. Okay. So these are areas in which I work. So I did my PhD in deformation physics and then went to tribology and fatigue of ceramics at the University of Sydney. Then I worked on a whole lot of different materials because there were a lot of demands and there was no Indian suppliers. So therefore, we needed to develop the materials and then understand their properties and their functionalities. And when we were doing this, we could understand that developing body armor is nice, but also we could apply the same technology with some modifications of layer structures to vehicular armors, which is needed by the defense. Similarly, thin films and thermal barrier coatings or bioactive coatings could be a major area from which I got my sponsorships. And these are the pictures of how we shifted from 1992 to 2018 to different areas. And we could see that, changing the research field at relevant times give us not only sustainability, but also the challenge. That's what I was talking in terms of the prospects and challenge. Prospects were there, but we need to take up that challenge to be successful. So it's a journey full of ups and downs, a very, very topsy-turvy ride, but you need to take it up as it goes. Therefore, there are few things that is this AMU series Advanced Mechanical and Materials Division, which I headed. As you can see, there are a lot of facilities. Then I have to have contact development, faculty creation, HR development, and partner development, maintain old partner and new partner creation. From where to learn how to get new projects. So what can be a better place than my own countrymen? So I look to CSIR, CGCRI, my own faculty, then DAE, DRDO, and ISRO, all of them do teamwork. We are successful because we are a team, while still accepting individual brilliance and leadership. Okay, so CSIR works on the priorities of industry, and ISRO works on national priorities of societal missions, and all these priorities we can take up in our project formulations, and that's how the new projects are formed. And as you can see, this is a pyramid, incomplete pyramid, of course. Here is somewhere the highest competent authority who sponsors, who finally gives me the money. Okay, but there is a leader, and going from the bottom side, there are students, and then technical people, scientists or academicians, then group leaders, then there are task groups, then there are tasks, which all are under the supervision of the leader. And then there are peers who are also trying to grab the same opportunity from the sponsor. And the director expects you to perform, or the highest authority expects you to perform. So this is a very complex scenario, very challenging scenario, where you need to thrive, where you need to, make other people understand your own needs and how you want to develop, convince them, get funding, because the leader is only as good as his team, neither any better nor any more worse. Therefore, one major thing is that you can see the widest part of this pyramid is its base, where we have the students, project assistants, JRFs, SRFs, RAs, and senior associates. So they are basically the groundbreaking researchers, the most important in this whole scenario. And the new thought, more often than not, will come from them rather than from anyone else. Okay, so you need to nurture the young minds, the young scholars. Very, very important. Now, who is a leader? In my opinion, he should love to take load and lead from the front, and he should be lovable. He should be having very high empathy for all his colleagues. He should be effective, hence efficient, adaptive, not orthodox, and he should be able to deliver through commitment, dominate by passion, not power. It's very important. We can always use our power or position, but if we can dominate by passion, that I am interested in loving your work so that my work goes, so that can be very helpful. And this is what makes him energetic, passionate, visionary, and have a dream. And when it happens, thank you. He is respected, he is responsive, and hence responsible, not only for the success, but also for the failure. There is a very big story which probably all of you know. The first project of Dr. APJ Kalam, one of the first projects of his PSLVs, it failed miserably. And then his senior, the then chairman of ISRO, he came and he explained to the media that, okay, basically the project fails because of my overambitious timing schedule, and I take the responsibility. So a leader will not be claiming only the success, but also will stand by you when you are a failure. And the project for its successful completion needs a good project leader. That's how the connection between successful project and successful project leader is established. I hope you understand. Now, basically, the leadership is a very complex phenomenon. So it also evolves through situation and also evolves through organizational leadership. So both are important. So how does a leader can affect the organization and can also maintain its growth? Okay, so as you can see, there can be several leaders. Okay, and for an organization to grow, for example, if Sharda University or UEM, or for that matter, Manipal, anyone needs to grow, there will be many team leaders, and they will be having many activities from maybe A1 to AN, and there will be both vertical, horizontal, and oblique interconnectivity between the organizational leadership and achievement and the team leadership and achievement. Once that happens in a seamless manner, that's what makes the overall growth possible. And the overall growth is important for implementation of the project. When you have got a project, that is fine, but how do you implement that? That's also important. Okay, so therefore, the organization synergy is important for the growth of our nation, India. So therefore, as you can see, there can be a number of organizations like ISRO, DRDO, CSIR, DST, DSIR, so on and so forth, DBT. So there has to be this horizontal, vertical, and oblique integration between the agencies so that the nation can grow. And that will grow how? That is where you are coming into picture, my dear participants. You are the persons who are applying for projects. So you are the persons who will make the country go forward. So that is why you have a very major role to play there. You need to understand that. Okay. Now, how do the young persons or researchers contribute to organizational development? Few things are very important. The first is new knowledge base. So they are the persons who will ask why, how, when. So when they have that knowledge, they will publish, they will patent their knowledge, and when they do that, that goes to the public domain, that is the international domain. So therefore, that demonstrates the national capability. So you give an international message or a message to the international community, yes, we can and we do. And you don't stop there. You also go on to make either fundamental discovery or product development research. So that is where the young blood, the young thinkers, the young faculty has to contribute in a very big way. I'm giving you a few examples now. DST ACRB is promoting opportunities for women in exploratory research. There is the power grant for all our colleagues in the participants. The call is open from 1st of September and play in on 30th of September. It's a major call from DST ACRB. And if you can try that, I'm sure that there can be a very good success. And DST ACRB power grant is a very competitive grant, but if you try maybe a few times, there's a good chance of success. There is a new call that has come up, call for scientific community service grants outreach and science communication is the responsibility that scientists across career stages and disciplines have towards the society. So it's called India Biosciences Outreach Grant. It is open from 1st September to 30th September, 11:59 p.m. IST. And selected projects will be notified by mid-October. Projects must be initiated by 1st December. So it's a fast-track project call. So if you can look into the relevant details, you'll probably see that is a huge opportunity. Now, first-time applicants, there will be an award of a maximum 1 lakh for a duration of 1 year. And there will be a total of 5 such grants which will be offered to a team led by a young investigator in India. So those who are working even in modeling of endemics and pandemics and biomaterials, this is a very, very major area which I would encourage all of you, young investigators or young entrepreneurs or regional entrepreneurs or young investigators and mentors who can apply. And although there is no specific guideline for the nature of work to be done, we are looking for innovative ideas with broad societal benefits related to life sciences. And there can be also extension grants. Those who have been already offered IOG, this India Biotechnology Outreach Grant, they can be given this extension grant that is for 1.5 lakh for 1 year. And the round 2 funding is intended to enable meritorious projects to become sustainable in the long run, that is set up permanent structures, seek funding and partnership from other agencies. Okay. Now, only each team will be eligible to attend this grant once, and Department of Biotechnology, Government of India and TNQ Technologies, they are partially supporting this program. Okay. First time grant, who can apply? Inspired young investigators currently employed at or affiliated to a government, educational or a not-for-profit research institute in India to lead the effort. Collaborations with either educators, students, scientists or science communicators is permissible and preferred. And we must note that we strongly encourage YIM, that is Young Investigators Meet, and Regional Young Investigators Meet alumni who have individually attended these programs in the past as postdoctoral fellows or investigators. They can apply as well. And in extension grants, a young investigator is currently employed at or affiliated to a government, educational or a not-for-profit research institute in India to lead the effort who have been awarded a first-time grant. In the previous year, are eligible to apply for the extension grants. Each team can attain this award only once. So the possibilities are endless. I will not read all this in detail, but you can see that why you are seeking the support from IOD, only 300 words is given. And topic or gap or problem that your project is addressing, a short answer of 2-3 sentences will suffice. That means you need to have a very good writing skill and maybe writing it 10 times before you finally submit. And a one-page proposal indicating the need of the work along with clear actionable steps, the intended idea for addressing the need, the potential important impact or outcome, and the timeline. So as you can see that nowadays the sponsors are giving you everything in a very structured manner, and your response to that must be also very, very well structured, well thought of, well planned and well devised. Okay. And there will be budget, and you could, if you want, add a short explainer video or infographic which will help the committee understand and assess the proposed activity. And you need to share the Google Drive link, and you need to submit all the information 1 to 6 in one PDF file. And you also need to give the permission to access all resources for which Drive links have been shared to anyone with the link. So these details you can check out. And this is a very good opportunity among the current calls of the national level. There are many others as well. So this is the extension grant proposal. So you can see the details. I will share the PPT anyway with the organizers, so that should not be a problem. Time scale is same, and then here is that again justification for the second funding, so that makes it 7 points, and the other things are similar. Okay. Now, international. There is a 11th hour racing that 6 proposal. Now that is in the area of, I would say sea sciences. So ocean literature stewardship, increasing the understanding and appreciation of importance of healthy oceans and waterways to communicate through experimental learning, citizen science, and powerful storytelling. Most importantly, the second one, where the scientists can intervene much better way, clean technologies and best practices, advanced practices and technologies in coastal communities, and the marine industry that reduce waste, prevent microplastic pollution, improve water qualities, and assess new circular solutions. Third, the very important one is ecosystem restoration, improve water quality, bolster coastal resilience, because most of the times when a cyclone comes, there is huge damage to the coastal areas. So we need to bolster the coastal resilience and sequester carbon through coastal habitat restoration. So these are the three major areas. And again, I will skip the details. As you can see, emphasis will be given to projects focused on youth-led initiatives. Therefore, young faculties are encouraged, and there can be, prevention of plastic pollution or food waste, and many aspects of, vessel disposal methods or construction of materials, sail making and boat building material alternatives or processes. So there are tremendous scope in terms of the materials engineering, material science, mechanical engineering, chemistry, physics, everything. Okay. Now, project submissions are evaluated based on the few criteria. First is environmental impact. The magnitude of the project's environmental benefit is capacity and organizational expertise. So that is important that your organization is well known. Innovation and creativity, feasibility of implementation. That will include technological feasibility, financial feasibility, and political factors that may influence the success of the project. So this is actually a good grant, and the typical grant awards range from $10,000 to 100,000, that is $1 million, and the average grant size is 25,000. So first-time grants are a little bit smaller, but it's a very good grant to apply for. And if you get that, then it may open a Pandora box for your own research. Okay, and also mathematical modeling can be utilized here in terms of understanding the health of the seawater. Okay. There is in social sciences, that's very interesting to see. I also didn't know about that. I'm very grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity, because when I was trying to see, I could find this grant also. It is the United Nations Trust Fund for Human Security. Normally, we wouldn't bother much about that, but I could see that the deadline for the submission of concept notes is about 12 September 2022, 11:59 p.m. New York time, and it should be submitted to the resident coordinator or the highest ranking UN official. So it's a UN project call, United Nations project call, and the aspects that they are looking into is basically socio-scientific. The UNTFHS will focus the 2022 call for proposals on programs to extend awareness of the human security approach and this usage at all levels. So basically, what they are looking at is the funding is, US dollar about $300,000 for a period of 1 year to 1.5 years. So that's a very good funding. And in terms of, our DST funding, if we compare. And I'm not again going to read it. You can take your time to read it when you are at ease. Basically, what you are looking at is greater integration of operations and expertise and develop new perspectives and approaches to long-standing challenges. What are the challenges? Redressing inequality, overcoming obstacles to implementing the humanitarian development peace nexus, and prioritizing prevention in all areas of the organizational work. And also it should take care of people who are left behind or marginalized because of the urbanization or industrialization. And it should also take care of age and gender sensitive dimension as it relates to methodology, guidance, strategy, mechanisms, and processes to ensure that all action will be tailored to the specificities of the intended target groups. So, but it's a very wide open area which we can take, and there can be funding up to $300,000 US. Coming to the national scenario, Research in space science and technology. This is a picture from the ISRO website, which is publicly available. So when a satellite goes to the space, there are materials, devices, semiconductors, thin films, thick coatings, polymers, composites, you name anything. And in the modeling part, there is huge amount of computational modeling that goes on, and it's a total integration. And ISRO supports projects through Respond Basket. It comprises of the most urgent and important research problems identified by ISRO or the Department of Space Centers or units on the basis of ISRO's upcoming programmatic R&D requirements. Each research problem comprises of a brief write-up about the topic for the faculty of the academic institutions or R&D laboratories other than the space technology cells and regional academic centers for space (RACS) to select and prepare the proposals. So these are in IITs and NITs, these STCs and RACS. But individual colleges and individual universities can always apply. And the principal investigator should be a full-time employee of the concerned institution. And it should be a domain expert, of course. There may be co-investigators from the same or different institutions, and there will be a collaborator from ISRO. If you go to the ISRO website, you'll see all the details. And the age limit is below 65 years, including the project period. Proposals from individuals not affiliated to any recognized institutions or R&D institutions will not be considered. So there is a declaration form and all the details. You can see this website as is given here. So if you go that and there, and you'll see the Respond Basket 2022. And for this year it is gone, but for the next year it is still open. So you should look into this. Okay. Similarly, there is another research board, which is Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences. It's a hugely powerful board, and it supports research in the area of atomic energy. So BRNS supports high quality research and development programs of relevance to DAE. Scientists or engineers or academicians working in universities and academic institutions of higher learning, they can apply. Research associated with government recognized incubation centers and DSIR will be also considered for funding. Those working in DA units, of course, they will not be eligible to do that. And basically, there can be research project, also Young Scientist Research Award, and there will have to be a principal collaborator from Department of Atomic Energy, and one co-investigator also is a must from the same institution, because the CI is expected to take the responsibility of taking forward the project on technical as well as financial matters in the absence of the PI. So incomplete application, of course, will not be considered. So you have to make sure about that. Next comes, the Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, where also there is a lot of material science, computational science, and mathematical modeling of the trajectories and the impact factor, and impact power and stress distribution, everything comes in. So that's a major area of research. So all the details are given here, and the project proposal is very small, only 2 pages. So these details are required, and where to submit. So it is for the Armament Materials Research Board, but there are many such other boards. When you go to DRDO website, you can see their details, and I've also given the website here, so you can check that out. So similarly, Indian Council of Medical Research, they also give you, lots and lots of projects. I've given the website here. You can go to the details and see. Similarly, for Indian Council of Agricultural Research, they also give fund for extramural research project. Basically, there are numerous others. I have not listed that. Basically, all the national agencies, they actually want research also to be done outside their own periphery or their own departmental boundaries. And that is why these projects calls come, and there are many people among us Indians who are getting it, and also people from abroad are applying, and there are some international calls in which the money can be divided between the external agency and our agency. So there are endless possibilities. We need to be, focused and careful to achieve the success. Now, again, reiterating what are the points of major issue in project writing. Writing skill is, of course, very important. The language should be very lucid, It should be grammatically correct, of course, but the most important point is it should be a fluid language, just like a fluid flows easily. Okay, and you need to impress upon the reader that you could have told much more. Your knowledge is much more, but you are only telling as much less as possible, only to attain the criteria given in the project proposal. 300 words, 500 words, whatever it is there. But within that, you must articulate the uniqueness of your project proposal, your knowledge about the national and international scenario, the gap areas that are already identified. So that defines the scope of the work. And from there, you come to the objective of the exact thing that you want to do. And what are the benefits of doing that in terms of concrete money, concrete societal benefit, and concrete scientific benefit. So those things you must very categorically establish and focus. Then you develop your, of course, your CV is an important point. You must be a credible person. But you all are credible, I guess, and are going to be credible very soon. The most important point is your methodology, the one that you're going to adopt. It should be also very unique. And while doing the budgeting, you always keep a little bit on the higher side because there will be always some reduction. But it should not be like if your budget is actually needed money is 13 lakhs and you propose for 43 lakhs. It doesn't work out. So you also, whenever you are asking for equipment or a manpower, the most current data you should have. Like in terms of instrument, you should be having, in fact, it is needed to be submitted now in GST survey proposal costs, that you have a rough idea from a supplier about the equipment value, the money required. Okay, it may be a budgetary code. Similarly, for the manpower also, what is the current value of the manpower that you need to know. In terms of consumables also, what exactly you need to buy and how much of that you need to buy, it has to be exactly specified. So you should be doing some homework before you actually apply. And the last but not the least, whatever things you are adding, you should be able to give a very solid justification for that. Okay. And once you are justified and once you have a reasonable amount of already existing facility in your campus, and you can impress upon the sponsor that it is what at least reviewing, your project goes for review, at least 3 reviews are done usually. And if you have at least 2 good comments of even at least to have, revise the proposal accordingly, then there is a good chance that you will be given a chance to defend. And once you defend, you are on your own, of course, but then your connectivity and your power to present your idea and to confront criticisms and to overcome that will come into picture. So that is how it all goes. And just to give you a glimpse of the Sharda University work, I'm just touching upon, not going to the details. Now, these days, a lot of work is being done in AI and ML. So my colleague, Professor Ashok Kumar, he is an expert on AI and ML, and he has got 2 memorandum of understanding. Both are for 5 years, and he has got good amount of funding. Apart from research fellowships, as you can see, the details are here. One is with a US company, which is Go Vivas, and the other is a foundation which is basically in the field of ophthalmology, Sri Sai Alliance and Shivarama Foundation. Now, what he does is he uses AI and ML for predicting and correcting medical imaging, radiological imaging, neurological imaging like MRIs, and also the forensic images. So, now radiology is all physics, but AI and ML are basically, subjects from data science, but a lot of physicists are adapting that. And that is how you become very relevant to the current day scenario. And those of you who are really expert in AI and ML, you could apply that a lot to material science, medical imaging, neurological imaging, radiological imaging, and the frontiers of forensic science. So I just wanted to show you that how my colleagues at the physics department, they are approaching the prospects and overcoming the challenges. And these are the details of the MOUs, just to give you a simple view. So what it's time to conclude. I think you must be tired now. So we try to understand how we can apply for successful project sponsorship, and we try to discuss the critical issues in such efforts. And I've tried to give you numerous examples of national and international projects as typical cases. So it's time to recognize that for all research that we do, we need a timeline and a lifeline. So the earlier lifeline from CSR CCRI days is this. It's only a part of that. It's about a team of 50 people, so I cannot acknowledge all of them. And this is my Manipal University Jaipur group, from where I got the good connection with Professor Tarun Sharma. He was a scholar then at MUJ. With my colleague Dr. Pooja Sharma. This is a group from physics from which I collaborated and still continuing. This is my new group from the Sharda University from whom I'm collaborating, and our head is Professor P.K. Singh, who just recently got a very good project from the Uttar Pradesh Council of Science and Technology on conversion of waste plastics to very costly, very important technological nanocarbon materials, carbon quantum dots and things like that. So the point that I'm trying to bring in is, apart from the books that I've co-authored with my earlier student, Dr. Judev, who is a senior scientist at ISRO now, these collaborations have sustained me and are sustaining me now. I'm already having collaboration with Professor Kumar and many other colleagues here. It will come in days to come in limelight. But this is a process that today you don't think of sitting idle in a corner, hazy corner, and do your research. That is good. There is nothing wrong with that. But today is the day of teamwork, collaboration, connection, cooperate, and handholding. So I would like to impress upon you that the more you do that, be it UEM, be it Sharda, be it MUJ, be it CSR labs or DST labs or DRDO labs or DAE labs, we need to do that, and we must ensure that we give due credit, due scope to all our female faculties, female colleagues, female students, because there is enough scope and enough capability in them to come up higher in terms of performance in the national R&D scenario and international R&D scenario. So it's time to acknowledge Vice Chancellor UEM Jaipur and organizing committee of ATTS RWP 2022, particularly Professor Tarun Sharma. I'd also like to gratefully acknowledge Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, and Dean, Sharda School of Basic Sciences and Research, which is Professor Banerjee. Here in physics, Professor P.K. Singh. Then Professor Ashok Kumar and other colleagues at the physics department, Sharda School of Basic Sciences and Research. My own teachers, my research collaborators and colleagues at CSR, CGCRI, MUJ and Sharda University. My sponsors from CSR, CGCRI, GST, CRB, DRDO, CSIR, DAE, other private sponsors. Numerous collaborators in India and abroad. Mentors, past directors of CSR, CGCRI, my ex-colleagues from CSR, CGCRI, and last but not the least, my family. Thank you all. And I would love to end the talk here. Thank you once again for your kind and patient hearing. If there is any question, I would love to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anup, sir. It was definitely a very informative talk. And first of all, we are very thankful to you for taking the time for your busy schedule, very tight schedule, and your presentation, and especially your slides are very, very good. It impresses everybody, and presentation is no doubt very good. Your experience enriches us, everybody, and you were taking the examples of your own. That was very, very nice. So thank you very much for this presentation. Now, I would like to request all the participants to share your questions in the chat box so that we can proceed for question sessions. Thank you. Yes.
There's one question from, we have a lot of questions. My first question is, sir, is there any unified website that gives information about call for grants at national or international level?
Yeah, of course. It's a very good question, first of all. If you go to the IISc website, I can also share that with you. What IISc has done, they have made a very unique collection of all the calls throughout the year that are going to come from the different websites they have collected, and they have given the hyperlinks there. So I have that with me. I can share that little later after the talk is finished. So that is available also in IISc website. So that's why they are the best in the country. So everything of all national agencies, at least the big ones, okay, from there you can get all the calls. The major ones, like what are the major agencies if you see? One is UGC, one is CSIR, DBT, and then DST and DST-ACRB. So the major players' calls all are listed there. And but the problem is that you have to be, little ahead of the process. Like the call opens usually for a month. Like now the DST-ACRB power call is open, or these international project calls are open. Now, at least 4 or 5 different project proposals in some form or other you should be having ready. More or less everywhere you will have this, abstract, objective, national international scenario, methodology, then deliverables, and the budgeting and everything. Okay, so some framework should be kept ready, and then as per the call you prune it, you tune it. So that is how you should go. And but otherwise also, if you go to a definite website like DRDO or DAE or ISRO Respond, everything is written there in the website. And from the individual agencies also, you can go straight away to their project call and submit it if there is a time zone open. Does that answer your question? That's my answer to your question.
Thank you so much, sir. There is another question. What if the objectives of the projects are not achieved in the given time, or we don't get the desired results?
Very good question. I appreciate this question. How do we write a project proposal? It's basically a little bit intuitive and little bit guesswork, little bit intuitive thought work, right? Let me give you an example, concrete example. Since I am an alumnus, I did my MSc and PhD from Jadavpur University, and Jadavpur University and CSIR, CGCRI, Kolkata have a common wall. So I would be always getting students from Jadavpur University doing their BSc and MSc dissertation work with me. So what I used to do when some idea comes to my mind, I would try it with a BSc person. So he gets his thesis somehow, and then a little bit more risky experiments I will do with the MSc guy or the BTech guy or the MTech guy. So over a couple of years, I will do this trial, not risking anything. They get their thesis because of the characterization things that we have at CSIR, CGCRI. And that's what is wanted from a MSc or BTech or BSc guy. Eventually, I have the knowledge base developed. I now know what are the problem areas and what are the solution areas and what materials can be applied. Then I apply for a project. So I have at least partial success guarantee. But it is practically also possible that you may be partially unsuccessful and you may be totally unsuccessful. The sponsor will not kill you for being unsuccessful. So do not deter from applying for a project. If you are honest and if it is established by your work that you tried honestly and your thought process was correct, but due to some reason, it didn't work out. For example, it could be so that, God forbid, imagine that I got a project and I had thought that I'll be buying after 6 months this particular chemical from abroad. And then another pandemic breaks out. And I do not get that particular chemical in time. Okay. So by project time, when I ultimately get that, in hurry or in whatever reason, I am not successful to develop the product or develop that particular reaction or conduct that particular experiment. So this is not really totally my failure because I am not predicting the pandemic. Of course, Torun does, but it's like not easy to predict it. Okay, so challenges are there, but you are not. Of course, people will tell you that when you are making some part of the deliverable achieved, like even if you try, even if you fail, the failure can be a publication. Okay, and even negative results can be a very good patent, showing that by these particular techniques, this particular thing will not work out. So some outcome has to be there. That's the main thing. So it is not necessarily that if your project objectives are not 100% achieved, you'll be put in jail. No, nobody does that, and you need to justify, of course. You should not be having the money and sleeping over that. As long as your honesty, methods, and your integrity is correct, don't worry always about the end results. But in 8 out of 10 cases, your end results will be positive. That's my experience tells me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for explaining in a very nice way. There is one more question from our participants, Ms. Shatabdi Basu. She is asking, sir, as per your experience, are government organizations like CSIR, DRDO open to the idea of collaboration with private universities, and to what extent?
Okay, very good question. As an example, we at Sharda University today are having a project from the Council of Science and Technology, Uttar Pradesh government. Okay, so that's the government, not maybe central government, but state government. Okay, we are also having Department of Science and Technology, Government of India sponsored FIST program right now at Sharda University in our Sharda School of Basic Sciences and Research Biosciences Department. So that is DST FIST sponsored. So it is not that the government is not sponsoring or supporting the private universities. That's number one question. At Sharda University and also at Manipal University, Jaipur, we have enough number of projects from DST SARB, which shows that government is interested in developing collaboration with private universities. Coming to DRDO, and I can tell you that both DRDO and ISRO are having right now projects at the Sharda University, and also at SRM and also at DIT. So these are private universities. So therefore, and in fact, one satellite developed by the SRM students was on the last space vehicle that failed, unfortunately, but the SRM participated with ISRO in that program, and the payload was designed and developed entirely by the students of the SRM University. So therefore, there is nothing of a bar. Few questions are there. One is that they won't allow you to do what you like. They would be happy if you do what they would like you to do. First point is that. Second is that, do you have the caliber to do it? Are you competent enough to do that? Third is, if you can satisfy their, initial queries and initial expectations. In my case, I can tell you that I worked for a program for a development of a indigenous carbon-carbon three-dimensional composite, which has actually gone into the Chandrayaan-1. I did not know at that point of time, so I did the research free of cost because one of my students requested me to do, and when it was successful, then he told his bosses there. Then I got one after another 2 ISRO projects. So it is like that some connectivity is needed, of course, some credibility needs to be established, but this is a, I would say a two-way game. So, and a vicious circle, and one project leads to another. So the fast breaking the ice is difficult, but not impossible. First thing need to do is, you have to be present in a large number of, I remember that I would not be leaving any major national conferences without going. Only reason is to get acquainted with people who matters. And then when I give talk, after the talk, I go to them, I ask them, can I ask you something? Was I able to communicate to you? This is what I have done. Will you have any interest in this material? Like that, slowly, you get acquainted with people who matter, who are senior and who are good scientists, good researchers. And so they talk about you to other people. That's the way the word of mouth communication and propagation about your work matters. So once you can do both the things, and of course you have to be good at your trade. That's the basic thing. And all of you are very good, I believe. And therefore it should not be a problem, but yes, there has to be persuasion. Maybe 1 or 2 times you don't get right away a reply to your email, but you go on continuously thriving and knocking at that door, it will open eventually.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Mr. Vidyasagar. Request to suggest any topic on product development research in relation to organizational relations.
It's a difficult, I mean, I didn't understand the question properly, to be honest. But in terms of product development, if the product is for organizational development, so which organization it is, that needs to be specified. For example, if I'm in an agricultural organization, I will need a nano fertilizer. Right now, being a physicist, I'm working in nano fertilizer with the Sharda School of Agricultural Sciences. I'm also working with the Sharda School of Medical Sciences and Research for the nanoceramic hydroxides, which can go, or nanoceramic oxides, which can be used as the endodontic sealer. Okay, so it depends on what kind of product you are talking about and what kind of organization that is going to be applied for. Okay, but definitely today's call is in few areas. One is that energy storage, energy harvesting, and energy production. It's a major area. Next is water remediation, extremely important area. So if you have a good scavenger of toxic metal ions, that's a very good product. Okay. The other is combating the antiviral, antimicrobial, and antibacterial activities of so many viruses and fungi. That is, creating a havoc, starting from dengue to Kala-Azar to COVID, SARS-CoV-2, and all these bioweapons. Okay, so if you have a material that can combat to some extent this kind of bio-war scenario, which we faced in the last 2 years from COVID-19, so definitely that is going to be a havoc product. Okay, we have in India developed in no time, almost in very quick time, the viruses vaccine, but there can be still research going on, and in fact it is going on at the Serum Research Institute in Pune for the higher order viruses. So government is keeping itself prepared, or trying to keep itself prepared. So like that, you will have to learn like what is going to come next in terms of research expectation from a researcher by the country. It could be in your domain, or it could be slightly outside your domain. Like now we are talking of 5G and 6G, mobile connectivities. So what are the materials required for that? What are the softwares required for that? What are the hardware platforms required for that? So those kind of things, you need to be very well aware of what's going on around as a whole in the world of science and technology, and then pick up your own call there. That will be my humble suggestion to you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. There are similar type of questions which have been discussed by your slides also, so we are not taking this because they are some common questions. So on behalf of organizing team and UEM Jaipur, I am sincerely thankful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation in a very short note. And
thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
To be connecting with you. And with your kind permission, may I leave now?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Take care.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, dear participants, now we will meet tomorrow at the same time, and the information will be circulated in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you.